Okay, welcome back everyone. Today is the 21st of August 2013 and we are continuing on our journey on the source field, the source of all order and information in the universe. I'd like to introduce myself and then introduce Gaddy, my co-host. My name is Dr. John Stewart. I'm a medical scientist from Scotland, and then I did a master's degree in biophysics at Imperial College, and then an electrical engineering degree, and then a doctor of natural medicine. So I have a broad range of interest in this area, particularly as it affects biology and healing. And my co-host Gaddy is also a student of the source field, and it was he who introduced me to the book in the first place. So we run regular weekly events for our community at our home in North York, Toronto. Before I commence, and again, I would like to point out to you there's a valuable source of literature now available. Not only the main book that we're using as a text, although it's challenging to read, it's nevertheless quite encyclopedic and one of the most advanced books available. And secondly is this book by Professor Claude Swanson called Life Force, the Scientific Basis. This book slants more towards healing and energy medicine, but it does have a lot of pictures and photographs. For example, there's a photograph of Professor Daryaev from the USSR, one of the scientists from behind the Iron Curtain. So both books are worthwhile reading. And then there are many other books now that are being available. One, Beyond the Visible Universe by Professor Sarg, one of our colleagues at York University in Toronto, and another of his more recent books, The Basic Structure of Matter, also by Professor Stoyan Sarg. So we're learning more and more from different areas, bringing together pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, and we are now hopefully beginning to formulate a picture from all of those fragments of information and knowledge. Today we're going to cover chapters 11 and 12 in the Source Field book, and also it coincides with chapter 7 in Professor Swanson's book. So
it's Source Field Investigations by David Wilcock.
Yes, that's the text for this course. This is a course on the source field, the field of all order that is subquantal. It's smaller than quantum physics. Quantum physics dimensions go down to 1 nanometer and 0.1 nanometer. 0.1 nanometer is 1 angstrom, and it's around 10 to the minus 9, 10 to the minus 10 meters. So it's very, very small. But below that is this field or matrix, the cosmic lattice of order, where order resides, information resides, and which seems to determine the nature of our reality. It may also coincide with some of the higher dimensions described by string theorists, who tell us there are at least 11 different dimensions, only 3 or 4 of which we are consciously aware. But these other dimensions are undoubtedly affecting us in subtle but powerful ways. So today's talk is continuation. We're going to talk about time. And time is covered very thoroughly in chapters 11 and 12 in David Wilcock's book, and in chapter 7 of Claude Swanson's book. One of the fascinating things about time, it seems, the evidence is that time is not universally absolute. Time seems to occur in vortices that are local. So time can speed up locally and slow down locally in different parts of the universe and even in our day-to-day life, but we wouldn't be able to recognize it unless we had sophisticated instruments that can determine the speed of time. However, time is probably an illusion in itself, because it's not time that we measure with clocks. What is it that we measure when we look at a clock? You cannot measure time directly. What you're actually measuring is movement, the movement of the arm of the clock through a distance like x over speed, over velocity. That is time. So you have to have movement. No movement, no time. And the movement accumulates distance, and that is the nature of time. So when you speed up from the cosmic matrix, you're changing time locally. And there are many experiments now which indicate that, including some by Professor Aspden, the British scientist whom I visited back in England, who found that when he speeded up a flywheel and then stopped it, there was a residual torsion vortex in time, and that vortex seemed to affect subsequent flywheels that were able to be spun up with less energy. So there's an energetic storage in this cosmic lattice that affects us in our daily lives in subtle ways. And time and gravity are very much related, as David Wilcock points out in chapter 11 and chapter 12. We'll move on and talk a bit about chapter 12, the spinning wheel experiment, and then there are other experiments related to shape, the pyramid shape. And these are things that we're going to continue on to discuss in some detail when we come back to you. We're going to have a short break. Thank you. My name is John Stewart, President of Biophysica, Inc., and a biomedical engineer. We make the world's most advanced colloidal generators for domestic and industrial quantities of mineralized waters. Many bottling plants worldwide use our generators to make colloidal silver, the world's most life-saving antimicrobial supplement, as well as colloidal zinc, gold, magnesium, copper, iron, etc. Biophysica advanced generators produce the smallest nanomolecules to ensure potency against the smallest, most vicious viruses. A Biophysica colloidal generator will give your family the best quality colloidal silver for many years, quickly, cheaply, and easily. Contact us at biophysica.com or call us at 416-636-5804. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're going to continue on our study of time and gravity, chapters 11 and 12 in the source book investigation by David Wilcock, which you're using as the text. Source field investigation, yeah, by David Wilcock. So chapter 11 and 12, and simultaneously in chapter 7 of Claude Swanson's book is about time, a more expanded version. And I want to point out there are two eminent Russian physicists. This one is the one who's done most of the studies on time, Professor Nikolai Korozev. The other one is Garyaev. So we've got to get those names clear in our minds. And there are many other Russian scientists who followed up on their work, supported by the Russian government, and now actually hidden from the West because it's often of defense and military significance, the nature of time. And not only time, but matter, because some of these experiments indicate that matter is being changed along with time. So we're going to try and dig into this, and the purpose of this course is to make it easier for you to follow and to motivate you and me to do all the reading of this amazing material. It is so mind-boggling. It defies our understanding of physics as we have known it. So we have to dispense with our previous ideas, opinions, and beliefs, to let go of these and have no attachment to what we think is the truth, and read up about these experiments that have been reduplicated, validated, verified, and corroborated. So we'll continue on about the nature of time that appears to flow in vortices and can be changed locally in a little space of time, where time behaves differently and affects movement in a different way. For example, in chapter 10 about the flow of time. Certain phenomena and events can speed up or slow time. And there's a picture in Swanson's book, the different actions and activities that speed up or slow time. So we'll go over some of these. For example, evaporating acetone emits time or speeds up time locally. Dying plants and dying organisms speed up time locally, and they often emit biophotons during the dying process. Melting ice speeds up time. Chemical reactions, dissolving sugar increases entropy, means creates more randomness and speeds up time. Contrast to that are events which decrease entropy, which create more order, entropy being disorder, and such things slow down time, like stretching a rubber band. A growing plant slows down time. Freezing ice slows down time. Compressing a spring slows down time and creates more order. So those are phenomena that are listed here. Also, astronomically, phenomena on the sun, solar cycles affect time, which affect us in our local part of the universe. Also, summer heat. Heat makes these experiments difficult. Kozyrev found that some of his experiments would not work in the summertime unless they went into a frigid room where more order was possible. There's too much randomness when there is thermodynamic heating and movement of molecules and atoms, which seem to get in the way of order and coherence, not only in physical matter, but perhaps also in our brain and in our consciousness. And we've been told that solar cycle, activity on the sun creates activity on Earth, and disorder and disarray and decoherence in the sun creates disorder and war and other problems on Earth and in our consciousness. We're moving on to chapter 12. Yeah. Vortices in time, torsion fields seem to be spinning around, and this could explain why pyramids attract a vortex of time that spins around that shape. So the importance of shape along with time and gravity are things that we need to explore in this work. And it's all coming from the source field, the lattice of the cosmic matrix, which is down around 10 to the minus 20 meters in dimension. These little nodes of the lattice are about 10 to the minus 20. Remember that the smallest dimension in the universe is 10 to the minus 35, the Planck dimension. So, another thing that speeds up time is spinning a rotating gyroscope. And work done by Dr. Bruce De Palma, when he had spinning objects, he would propel them up into the air and they would behave differently if they were spinning or not spinning, their relationship with time. Kozyrev spent much of his time measuring source field waves from celestial bodies. He had a great interest in astrology and astronomy, from the planets, the stars, and the galaxy. And he used a modified telescope with a time detector. He could detect not only the visual part of a celestial body, but its time characteristics. This time detector, on the focal plane of the telescope, he had one or more of his time detectors, which would be like a pendulum or a lever, a balanced lever. And he found that the signal from these celestial bodies was stronger when he pointed to where the object truly was. In other words, light from an object takes many years sometimes to travel. So where the object is has an instantaneous connection with the observer, not at the speed of time. So the signal was strongest where the celestial body actually was, and there would be a measurement of where it would be in the future and where it is now, which is the past for that object. So there was an increasing signal peaking at where the body actually is, and diminishing as to where the body will be in the future, and weaker. The strongest signal was from the true current position. The future seems to cast a shadow into the past, the phantom effect that we've seen in DNA and phantom limbs. Remote viewers, for example, often see events in the future, so they can time of the past and the future as well as the present seems to be available to us. And even ordinary people can predict the future with a bit of training. Our thoughts and our DNA extend out through time and space into the past and the future. Another interesting thing, binary stars synchronize instantly with each other because of a connectedness through the source field. Everything seems to be connected instantaneously as well as through time, through the passage of time at light speed. It seems that our solar system is moving to an area of greater coherence and speeded up time. Coherence is speeded up time, causing more rapid evolution of life. And this has been pointed out in some of the earlier chapters of David Wilcock's book, that evolution seems to be speeding up, but it's actually time that's speeding up, that's affecting everything, including our lives. It seems that our minds, our consciousness, can change the speed of time, so that we have an effect upon matter and time based on our thoughts. Maybe that explains the intention experiment, the power of intention. We move on to a topic that's very important, how some people can speed up time locally, and including on page 262, Wilcock talks about the Chinese super psychic children and people who have an extra high functioning. One Chinese girl could speed up time and make a flower bud bloom in a few seconds after praying over the flower. They suddenly bloomed. One Chinese girl could teleport pills out of a sealed glass bottle from 2 feet away. One Korean was able to open 1,000 buds simultaneously. One woman was able to open many thousands of buds instantaneously in a stadium. A radio transmitter was teleported in China from the pocket of one person into a sealed container through a wall. During the teleportation, the transmitting frequency slowed down the slowing of time and briefly stopped, so that perhaps time may have been affected as it went out of space briefly into the time domain. And David Wilcock points out quite eloquently the difference between our space-time dimension and the time-space dimension, where time is important rather than space. And he says that there are at least three dimensions of time, and probably more dimensions of time. One Indian yogi can stop time within his own body, as he is sealed in wax for weeks. So perhaps we can stop time in various organs of our body to promote healing and have benefits against cancer, for example. Moving on to some mention of chapter 13 about time travel. The wave-particle duality exists within protons, neutrons, and electrons, and also with buckyball molecules, and they become non-local in time as well as in space. Buckyballs, that's that 60 atom geodesic dome molecule as a buckyball, were dematerialized from a particle to a wave by smashing them at high speed into a barrier, or later using laser light. So laser light laser coherent light also has we know it has healing effects, but it's possible that it's affecting not only time but the nature of matter in our bodies. So we're going to stop now for another break before we move on to chapter 13. Thank you for listening and watching.